I'll turn that in.
I'm watching, so I know.
All right, Michelle. I'm in the back.
What else are you talking about?
That's it. That we voted for it.
If I get a chance to see them before they start, I'm going to ask somebody. Oh, you want to see it?
This time, I would like to reconvene this special board meeting. Ann, will you call roll call?
Hall. Here. Solis.
Present.
Segura.
Here.
Pike.
Here.
Tarantino.
Here.
Janney. Here.
Board met in closed session preceding this meeting to discuss the following issues. Number 1, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. Paragraph 2 of subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956.9. The board took no reportable action. This special board meeting is now adjourned. Now we'll open up the regular meeting. Can we call the roll, please?
Hall. Present. Solis.
Present.
Segura.
Here.
Pike.
Here.
Tarantino.
Here.
Janney. Hall. Okay, here. Sorry. Do a moment of silence in the pledge.
Okay. I will start with a moment of silence and pledge allegiance by our Vice President, Mr. Frank Tarantino. Public communication on posted items. Per Government Code Section 54954.3, this is the point on the agenda where 3 members of the public may address the board on any item that has been described in this notice for the special meeting before or during the consideration of that item. Thank you for your consideration.
Bernardo Vasquez.
Good evening, board and Dr. Janney. So we've gotten to this mess that we're at tonight for obvious reasons, but I'm here once again to call on better and more transparent reporting, specifically with regards to the Melrose Fund. This is something that I've been coming up before you for numerous months now. Since then, it's become pretty obvious why better and transparent reporting is required. It's been very well documented, the fact that the Melrose Fund is in essence been being misused. I believe that those of us that live in Melrose communities have been carrying a large part of the district on our backs because you guys haven't been able to manage the finances of this district. We're at a pretty critical stage now. It'll be interesting to see what transpires tonight, but I hold each of you responsible for what's happened. You didn't listen to many community members that came before you to testify about red flags. This district used to provide reports on the Melrose Fund that specified money that was going out of that fund, where it was going, when it was being repaid, and the amount that was being repaid on loans. Ironically enough, the district stopped reporting at about the time that the excessive borrowing started. This goes clearly against, I think it's LCAP goal number 4, transparent reporting, something that the district consistently hammers us on documents and reporting that they give us. How ironic that your largest fund in the district outside of the general fund, you're not providing transparent reporting. As a matter of fact, your own audit on June 30th of 2018 told you that you violated Ed Code. I bet you guys didn't know that, did you? Why? Because you're not tracking this fund. You're misusing the fund. The district owed the Melrose Fund close to $5 million, didn't pay it back in the time that's legally required under Ed Code, and your own audit found that. So my question is, what ramifications are there? What happens when a school district doesn't live by Ed Code? You're not following the rules, and it's pretty clearly obvious that you're not, because that's why we're in the condition that we're in. President Pike, I'm going to ask you to please consider providing better accounting and transparent accounting for the Melrose Fund. I'd like to see, again, monthly reports. It's very clear that we can't rely on annual reports because the math doesn't add up with that fund. We've been carrying this district on our back, and I respectfully request that you provide better reporting for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathleen Shears.
I have thought long and hard on this issue at hand. Make no mistake, this fiscal mismanagement began years ago. Why wasn't there follow-up on the 2015 FIGMAT audit by the county or state? Oh, that's right. The county's then superintendent and budget person were certifying all was well. What this community needs has already begun. Expertise overseeing the budget by our new CFO, Dr. Salkind. We now have a person who has the knowledge to make solid recommendations. A CFO who does not strike me as a shrinking violet based on my research. Dr. Salkind and Dr. Janney working in tandem to steer the ship out of these murky waters. I believe this alliance, coupled with a strategic plan, will bring us the financial security, fiscal responsibility, and positive change we seek. What has me bothered is the lack of responsibility our board has demonstrated. Boards of trustees hold the ultimate responsibility, not the superintendent. That, a quote from FIGMAT, one of FIGMAT's audit I found. Trustees are content to sit there straight-faced, saying little, with the exception of Trustee Hall. Notice how nobody's looking at me, audience? Ms. Hall's synopsis of last week's meeting, we complain, trustees do the work. That is not a misstatement, Ms. Hall. It's a bald-faced lie. Your lack of educating yourselves, instead going along to get along, your connection to special interests, that is where your priorities lie. You speak nice words, show up at events, kiss the babies, and then there's the allegiance to your special interest political pundits. I stand before you telling you to your face that you have failed us. The students, the community-paying taxpayers, last but not least, your employees. Ask them how they view their raises. Your allegiance with the unions got them. Trustees, you work for us. You do not work for the unions. Get that straight. Your lack of fiscal responsibility is negatively changing the quality of education. Ask the students, ask the teachers, and it will undoubtedly spread when employees lose their jobs. I am angered by the failure of those I respect on this board to lead. Make that a closed session agenda item. Leadership. You all have voices. Use them. Community. Ms. Hall is attempting to have the facilities subcommittee disbanded. I need your help. I do not want the county or state to bring in any outsider. What I am asking them to do is remind this board what their responsibilities are. Remind them their allegiance is to the students, employees, and community. Mandate they stop playing politics with our students' education. If the elections were to be held today, I can assure you, this body, there would have been a different outcome, far different. But once again, South Bay's people chose to trust and not verify. There has been an awakening in 2020. There will be a call. Any trustee who has chosen to use versus serve will be viewing Sweetwater in their rear view mirror. Any trustee looking to seek any other political office, this mess, your mess, those votes will follow you and haunt you. Corporate America is coming. Sad but true. And it's all due to mismanagement. And I think that's a crying shame.
Arturo Osorio.
I'm concerned about like my school, like about this budget like cuts. Like I'm worried if it fits our education. I'm a bit concerned about like if this will affect us negatively. Concerned about that because I don't want like my school to be affected. So.
Thank you.
Claudia Torres. Claudia Torres.
Good evening, everyone. I'm a parent from Olympian High School, and well, I was here before, and I just want to say that salaries are a reflect of the crisis we are in. The salaries we will know you receive, that they are scandalous. It's like having a rich government and poor citizens. In this case, we have poor schools and poor students. Our schools are falling apart, and you are receiving very high salaries. That's impressive. And we are paying way too much for a very poor performance. So you are not reacting to the real solution. I didn't know you weren't being accountable in many things as a board. I thought you were just the board representing us as parents and students. But from what I heard from the beginning is that you haven't give us all the reports of the Melrose you have been using. So you have something, you owe us a lot. You owe us money and information. I encourage, well, besides that, I encourage you as a board to have the guts to do the right thing, for students, for our future. Our kids are our future. And if you say that students first, do it as you say. And don't do it for someone else's pocket. Do it for our students. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stuart Payne.
Good evening. So I am here to talk about cuts and salaries. I think we're all here to talk about that. But many of us in the community have been looking at the reported salaries from this district. And it's unbelievable. Someone showed me we have a supervisor of locksmiths that makes $180,000 for real? Is there anybody in this district? And I know some teachers, and it appears that our teachers are paid very well, thank God. But it didn't appear that there was anybody in this district that makes under $100,000, unless they were a walk-on coach or something like that. Folks, I understand that there's some communication to you about not being able to do the RIFs or the whatever it is you're planning on doing, the early retirements, when are you going to get serious about cutting? You know, to my left and to my right probably represents $2 million sitting at these tables. And I've been around for a while in this district. And many of them aren't worth $2, much less $2 million. And I won't call names, but the ones that have dealt with me know on a variety of different issues. We can talk about one that constantly comes up that I've talked about for 6 years, the dysfunction you have in the leadership at Olympian High School. I've been talking about that since my daughter was a freshman. My daughter's a sophomore in college. And what have you guys done? Nothing. And yet, month after month, meeting after meeting, here come more parents talking about the same thing. I'm all for paying people what they're worth. But if they're not worth what they're getting paid, especially in a fiscal crisis, time to cut the fat. And you guys have got to have the courage to make the tough decisions to make those cuts. Some of these salaries are absolutely ridiculous. Time to get to business and start cutting. Thank you.
Nick Marinovich.
Good evening, President Pike, members of the board, Superintendent Janney. I had some prepared remarks which I'll go through, but I came across an opinion piece I wrote for the Voice of San Diego back in May of 2016. The title of it was School Members Need to Have Tunnel Vision. The essence of this opinion piece that I wrote was that outside influences, personal allegiances, whatever you have influence you, the number one mission why you're here is the students, not anything else, not your career, not your political aspirations, none of that. It's the students. My perception from following this, thank you for everybody for listening, but one in there on the left, is that you've let those outside influences influence the way you act as collectively as a board. Believe me. Now to the specifics. Being a chair of the Bond Oversight Committee, I saw at the last board meeting what the problem with and how you got into this mess in the first place was when you treat the public with disrespect. And you disrespected me, which is really disrespecting the Bond Oversight Committee. Because we have provided you with input. And we could have provided you input to your campaign promise. If you remember, there you go again on the left, not listening. I don't know why you do that. We could have provided input. If you remember, you promised a forensic audit. There's a smirk up there, too. You requested a forensic audit. Forensic audit is when you expect waste, fraud, and abuse. You didn't ask, well, we can't do it. It's too expensive. It's too this, too that. There must have been an intermediate step when you first got on that board. But no, you're know-it-alls, and you went forward, and you didn't go with your campaign promise. Promises. Finally, what are we going to do when we move forward? And, you know, I'm venting now, but I think there's a couple of things. As I said at several board meetings, you need a strategic planning process that's institutionalized in this district. Second thing is your financial audit needs to be a real detailed financial audit, delving into more of some of these audits that were in the past, why we didn't uncover this shenanigans. But in closing, you know, I've been associated with this district for a long time, and several of these community members out here. And, you know, we had such high hopes that we'd be in a much better situation than under the previous regime. And I wish I could say that we were a lot better, believe me. But, you know, the fiscal condition of the district is worse. And I just don't know. I don't think we all know quite yet all why. But we need, just give me 15, if you could, seconds. So one of you, please, step up and be a leader. Tell the other board members what ought to be done working with the superintendent. That's an opportunity to establish, if any of you have a political career, that's the way to establish yourself as a leader. Lead the others when others are not leading. But we don't have that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean Chavira? Yes.
Good evening, President Pike, Board. I'm Gene Chavira, President of the Sweetwater Education Association, and I'm also representing the employees of the Sweetwater Union High School District, including the counselors tonight, to let you know that we are here to urge you to pass the early retirement incentive. We bargained in good faith, and we have 300 people about to retire. These are human beings that have made plans. We're just a few days from them retiring. I don't know why the County Office of Education waited until the day that it was going to be brought before you to send their letter. But I'm here again, like I said, to urge you to pass that. These people are counting on it, and like I said, all of the units bargained in good faith, and we're counting on you to pass it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Colleen Cook Salas?
Good evening, President Pike, board members, Superintendent Janney, Colleen Cook Salas, 210 I Street. I am also here to speak on C2 to encourage you to accept the SERP, and looking, and I'm sure you've seen the numbers too, I think it's going to be an important move for the district to realize there some savings for this school year, and there is much riding on the acceptance of the SERP besides just the incentive itself. And so I urge you for all those other contingency reasons to make that happen. And I did notice that we're seeing 11 certificated management folks take the retirement incentive, and I would encourage you to consider that as part of downsizing in the management area. I think that as you move forward and working with your bargaining units, you're going to find that a move like that is going to be more favorable to the working with the bargaining units in the future. And I thank you all for your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle Krug?
I actually will echo exactly what Ms. Cook just said, that I think the combination of the fact that these are human beings that have plans, and more importantly, that this was and is a way to actually save money, that I think that it should be a no-brainer to go ahead and approve the SERP. I also didn't realize that the letter had been sent at the last minute. So I think that this is bargaining in good faith, and again, it's dealing with people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Emmy Wong?
Hello, board members and superintendent. I'm also talking about the, I understand about the early retirement option for the teachers. I understand that the teachers are having plans, but my concern is for the students. I understand that there are 300 employees that are opting to take the retirement, which of 144 teachers and counselors, and 94 of them which are be taking it as of this month. At that point, I kind of thought about how it's going to affect my kids. Unfortunately, my kids' school are not that affected. But then that's when I thought, 94 teachers, where are these teachers coming from? There's a possibility that there are some schools in the district where dozens of teachers are going to be retiring at the end of the month. I just didn't think that it was really a wise idea to be doing this at the middle of the year. It's not fair for the students. It's not fair for the teachers. I mean, these kids, the teachers, they do more than just teach in a classroom. counselors, they do more than just guide them. And I mean, teachers mentor the kids. They're there for more than just teaching them math, English, and science. They're there to, they're not that easily replaced. They foster relationship with students, and there are students who are there barely getting by with their grades. And now you're going to be taking away some of these teachers and replacing them with substitutes. What are these kids supposed to do when they come back and the person that's keeping them at school may not be there? There are students who are taking AP exams. They are aspiring to go far, and they're trying to pass the AP exam and just get to the most prestigious schools. These teachers are there not just to teach the subject, they're giving them guidance to how they're going to pass the test, tips, and just they're being a cheerleader. And you're taking that away from these kids. There's coaches. I mean, they're there to teach the kids, about the importance of perseverance and teamwork. They might not be there when they come back. I mean, I understand to you guys, maybe teachers are just salaries and headcounts that could be cut. To the students, they are more than that. They're educators. And keep in mind that Sweetwater is in the business of educating students. Of course, they're the biggest cost in the budget because they are the main focus. They're the ones that do all the hard work. So if you think about it, I mean, any corporate management would look at the overhead first. Please don't put the students and the teachers in an awkward position where it's going to affect the kids in the future.
Juanita McCoy.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Janning. I'm here tonight because this financial crisis has a lot of community members extremely upset. When you look at what got us in this position, is it pay? I know a lot of people talked about equity in cultures and that there was 15 hires this year or in the past since 2016. I understand that it's part of LCAP, and I did some research. We have an LCAP plan for 3 years. We started this process. I attended those meetings. I have not been to a meeting or heard of any meetings since 2015-16. So if it's a 3-year plan, we should be coming up on having meetings to reevaluate the LCAP plan. And from what I understand, because I started saying, okay, well, have I had any input? I haven't seen any meetings about LCAP. And then I find out that the only way a DLAC committee, or I can't remember, because it said community input, it was DLAC, and I can't remember what the other one was. So if I'm not a member of one of those committees, I have no input. If I'm not on school site council, I have no input. So I suggest that the district have meetings for the community so we can see and evaluate if the equities department is doing what it needs to do. It's the 16 employees that they've hired or growth, plus some sites have full-time public relations. I mean, no, not public relations, I'm sorry, PR. Restorative justice, restorative practice teachers. So not only do we have people at the district that are doing this, we also have people at the sites. When my daughter came home after the crisis started, she said, "Mom, we're poor." I said, "What?" She goes, "Our school's poor." She goes, "Oh, we're not going to have summer school. We're not going to have after-school tutoring." And I said, "You're not poor. You guys are fine. They're going to fix it. Don't worry, it's not going to affect you." It is affecting the kids. You asked these teachers to retire halfway through the year. That is not fair to the teachers or the students. You offered them 85% incentive at midpoint of the year and offered them 60% at the end of the year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen Ramirez.
I'm Steven. I'm a junior, 11th grade, Hilltop High. And I came. Oh, I mean, it's, but it's your guys' fault. We should do this. We should actually focus on solutions, on fixing the budget, rather than saying, "Oh, it's your guys' fault." Cut teachers, and it's it's dumb. But we should come up with ways in which we could fix this healthy way, and everybody could agree upon. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
No further speakers.
Okay, if we're not going to have any further speakers, we'll have next a report on the fiscal crisis and management.
We're actually going to do item C2 first.
Oh, okay. C2, approve the supplemental early retirement plan, SERP, and adoption resolution number 4594, approving a supplemental early retirement plan, SERP, and authorize staff to offer a cost-neutral early retirement incentive to all employees.
We're going to have a report from the PARS organization, so please come to the podium. But before you do, and we're going to have the PowerPoint going on, but over the past few months, the Sweetwater Union High School District has faced very significant challenges with respect to our organizational budget. And we have worked diligently to stabilize our budget and taken the appropriate measures. We continue to work on that. We have done so in very close collaboration with our labor partners and with our community stakeholders. Tonight, our Board of Trustees will consider one of the major steps in our budget solution process. One, not the only one, but a major one. And that's the Supplemental Early Retirement Plan, the SERP, as people have heard it called. Tonight, you're going to hear more details in the next few minutes, but let me provide you one of the major highlights. This program resulted in over 300 employees from all levels who were not forced, but who voluntarily chose to, that were eligible and chose to take advantage of this opportunity. Management, certificated, classified, who have elected to take this incentive in either December of 2018 or June of 2019. And so we're going to share more information, and after we do, we'll make additional comments. So thank you, Mr. Yu, and take away.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Board President, members of the board, Superintendent Jenny. My name again is Dennis Yu, Executive Vice President with PARS. I'm very thankful for the opportunity this evening to present information about the early retirement program. As you may recall, back in the board meeting from October 22nd, the board gave direction to district staff to actually work with PARS to develop an early retirement incentive program, and I'm pleased to present the results of that program this evening. Just a little bit of background on the company that I represent, PARS. We've actually been in business for 35 years. Our sole focus at our company's inception was providing early retirement incentive programs for school districts. We've probably worked with more than 300 school districts up and down the state, having implemented more than 1,000 plans statewide. Our program has been a very effective tool for districts that have been facing difficult budgetary times to help downsize payroll costs and also to avert layoffs. So many districts, again, up and down the state have used PARS, including some of the largest districts within this county. We've also, again, worked with quite a number of school districts here as well. And actually about 9 years ago, we did do an early retirement program with Sweetwater Union High School District as well. So the goal of an early retirement incentive program is quite simple. It's basically offering a one-time financial incentive to your employees to retire a little bit earlier than they otherwise would have. The goal is to try to generate some savings over and above what's called natural attrition, which is the concept of those that would have retired anyways. And basically what you're trying to do is to generate some salary differential savings between your top step employees who are, again, are at the top of your salary schedule and replace them with lower cost employees who are at the bottom of the salary schedule. The program that was offered is basically the district would purchase a tax-qualified annuity program for each participating employee, and the amount of the cost of that purchase depends on when that employee actually decides to resign from employment. So employees who decide to resign on or before December 31st would get approximately 85% of their salary, and that would be used to purchase the annuity. If the employee decided to retire after January 1st, but on or before June 30th, they would receive 60%. So just as an example, if an employee was making $50,000 per year and they retired as of June 30th, you take the $50,000, multiply that by 60,000, and that, 60%, and that amount would be equal to $30,000. So the benefit of purchasing an annuity is basically you're trying to provide the employee with some tax-favored advantages so that the employee has some options with regard to how they can receive the funds. They can potentially defer the taxes over a period of time. They can actually do what's called an IRA rollover, where they don't have to pay the immediate taxes on a benefit program. Contrast that with if the district had just done what we call a cash payment or a severance type arrangement, there wouldn't be those tax advantages, and also the district and the employee would be liable for payroll costs such as Social Security and Medicare. So providing this incentive program through a tax-qualified annuity program was actually significantly more beneficial to both the employees and the district. Lastly, the district has the ability to spread over the cost of the annuity so that you don't have to fund it over in 1 year. You can actually spread out the costs over a 5-year period of time. The first payment wouldn't actually begin until the 2019-2020 school year, so that there's actually no cash outlay from the district in this school year. So that basically tries to maximize the savings that the district could actually achieve in this current school year. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, basically the district would be purchasing an annuity on behalf of each plan participant. So within the annuity, you do need to have a financial intermediary that basically guarantees all the benefit payments that are provided under this program. So we do have to utilize the services of an insurance company. That insurance company is a company called Pacific Life Insurance Company. So if any of you have ever watched college football or the evening news, I'm sure you've seen their commercials with the whale. Pacific Life is one of the most well-regarded financial institutions in the country, very highly rated. And basically, at the end of the day, what we care most about is their claims paying ability, their ability to make good on all the promised benefit payments to the retirees. And we feel highly confident that given their ratings and given the structure that they've built, that they will be able to basically guarantee every benefit payment under this program. Okay, so I'm going to get, the next part of this presentation is I'm going to get into some of the information about who actually signed up for this program. So within the last 2 months or so, we've been working with more than 1,000 of your employees at this district that were actually eligible for this retirement incentive program. We hosted about 9 different meetings in various district locations, met with your employees on both a group basis and an individualized basis, and basically trying to tell them the advantages and disadvantages of enrolling in a PARS early retirement program. So again, our program just simply adds an additional layer of benefit on top of their already accrued benefits that they've earned from either CalPERS or CalSTRS. We're just that additional supplemental plan on top of it. So as you can see from this chart, in total, if you look at the kind of the beige shaded column, in total, 308 of your employees accepted this offer. So that is quite a significant amount of participation. Down below, we also included what we had initially projected prior to the offering. And so, for example, we had estimated that about 211 employees would actually take that offer initially. So we've actually increased that amount in reality by about 50% up to 308. And then the most important thing that you see to the left of that 308 number are the numbers of employees that are retiring at the mid-year versus the end of the year. And so right now we do have 215 employees that have committed to resigning at the end of this year, which is actually within a 2-week period. And then 93 would actually resign at the end of the year. So the numbers, again, were significantly much higher than we originally anticipated. So what that means is that the savings for the 18-19 fiscal year would be higher given the higher number of participating employees retiring at the mid-year point. Okay? And then you can see from this group, the biggest concentration of employees is in your certificated non-management group with your SEA employees. So again, out of the 308, 144 of those employees decided to resign or retire. So with PARS, what we try to do is to try to help quantify the savings with respect to doing this retirement plan. And this calculation helps the district determine whether or not it makes financial sense to actually move forward with the program. And so again, the engine that creates savings for the district is basically replacing a top step employee with an employee who's at the bottom of the salary schedule. So for example, with your teachers, on average, the teachers make approximately $90,000. You may replace them with a teacher earning approximately $60,000. And then that salary differential savings is, again, what's used to help, number one, pay for the cost of the incentive, but also help try to generate savings over and above natural attrition. The one key element that we've also incorporated into this analysis is some measure of what we call non-replacement. So throughout the calculations that you're about to see, we assumed that approximately 20% of the retiring positions would actually not be replaced. So assuming you had over 300 retirements from this program, if you take 20% of that number, that means 60 positions would not be backfilled as a result of this program. And again, that's what's going to help generate the savings to the district. Okay. The next slide just shows some of the assumptions that we used in calculating the savings. And so, I think I've already talked about some of the preliminary design options before, but we've also assumed potentially where you would be backfilling the position. So we've identified salary amounts that you would be bringing in those hypothetical employees. So in total, we're looking at around 246 positions that you'd be replacing, approximately 61 or so positions that you're not replacing. And then of those 246 positions, you'd be replacing those folks at the various salary levels. We've also factored in retiree health care into our model. And that concept is important because of the fact that if people retire earlier than you've anticipated, then that means more years that you actually have to fund their retiree healthcare expenses. So that is a cost of doing an early retirement plan, and we've actually factored that into the model. One last thing I'd like to point out on this chart is we've also looked at your future CalSTRS and CalPERS retirement costs. So as you may know, your retirement costs have doubled almost over the last few years. And so they're going to reach its peak within the next couple of years. So the concept of doing an early retirement incentive can be beneficial for the district because really you don't want quite as many people at the top of the salary range. You want as many folks at the bottom of the salary schedule when those retirement plan costs reach its highest point. And so we factored that into our model as well. Okay, so the next slide is a summation of, quite a substantial amount of work that we've done internally to try to predict the level of savings as a result of the 308 participants that have taken advantage of this early retirement incentive program. So the key thing to look at, let's first take a look at what we call the mid-year chart. So that's the 2018-2019 savings. So as you may recall from the earlier slide, we have 215 employees that will be actually leaving in the next couple of weeks. So we have assumed that roughly 80% of those 215 employees would be replaced at those various salary replacement levels that we've shown earlier. But again, 20% of that 215, roughly maybe about 41, 42 of those positions would not be backfilled. If that were to happen, we would project that the district would save $3.3 million because of the fact that you're basically bringing in lower cost employees and not backfilling roughly 20% of those retiring positions. As you may recall, you're not paying anything for PARs, no administrative costs at all for PARs in the 18-19 year school year. So as a result, the entire amount of savings is provided to the district at roughly $3.3 million. So those are what we would consider pretty verifiable savings. Starting in the 1920 year, now at that point in time, we are able to factor in the remaining employees who retire at the end of the school year. So now all 308 positions are now factored into the calculation, but you do have your first PARS payment in that year. So that includes the cost of purchasing the annuity, plus the associated PARS administrative expenses for administering this program for basically the life of this program. And so in total, in the 1920 year, you're looking at roughly $4.2 million of savings. So that adds to the previous $3.3 million savings. So in the next 18 months or so, we're forecasting savings of roughly $7.6 million. You carry that over a 5-year period of time, we're looking at savings of roughly $22 million over that 5-year period of time. Down below, I did, just for comparison purposes, try to show you what PARS's original estimate of savings was. So again, this was performed prior to the plan offering. And we were forecasting roughly $11 million of savings would be achieved. So that number, we did blow by that number quite easily because of, again, much higher than expected participation, plus significantly more people retiring at the mid-year point. So the next 6 slides are basically look very similar in the sense that basically we do look at the individual savings, but this time we've done them by group. So basically the first chart you'll see are your SEA employees. We also have your counselors, your management folks. We also have your classified, your supervisory, and then also your classified management employees as well. I'll just take a look at the SEA group because this is the group that contributes the most savings to the district as a result of this program. And so if you look at in the mid-year, we're looking at roughly $1.8 million of savings as a result of the SEA, the roughly 94 employees that are participating as of the mid-year point. And then over that 5-year period, approximately $14 million of savings are attributable to that group. And so roughly, if you look at in total, you could say about 2/3 of the overall savings from this program are attributable to the SEA members. So one critical thing about all of our analyses is that it's built on a series of assumptions. So again, we have assumptions with regard to the district, what salaries you're going to be bringing those employees back at. We have assumptions with regards to how you're actually going to be replacing those employees. Like, again, we're assuming an 80% backfill. So in reality, at the end of the day, your district will determine what the actual savings of this plan are, basically by the employees that you do bring in to backfill those positions. And then again, whether or not you are able to withhold the backfill rate at that 80% replacement level. So again, if you are not able to achieve 80%, potentially the savings could go down. But let's say you can not backfill more than the 20% non-replacement rate, then potentially your savings can go up. So what PARS can do on an ongoing basis is to continually, in the future years, to actually evaluate the actual savings from the plan so that we can actually look at who you've actually replaced, at what percentages, and then that way we can determine whether or not the savings that we were projecting were actually materialized or not. Okay? And so in closing, again, there's a resolution this evening for the approval of the Early Retirement Incentive Program. There are 308 employees that have signed up for this program. So if the district approves this program, basically the resignations of all 308 employees would be locked in and they would be eligible to receive this PARS benefit starting on August the 1st. If you choose not to go forward with this program, then basically you're going to rescind all 308 resignation letters, and basically it's as though if this plan never happened at all. So basically that's the decision before you this evening, and I will be happy to answer whatever questions the board may have about this program.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board? Mr. Segura.
So I have a question. So with your ongoing, I don't know what you call it, consultation, right? With the fees, right? So the
Correct.
fees. So how much time is that? Is there
So,
for that?
so the fees would basically go for a 5-year period of time. So it's exactly based on the contributions that are sent into the plan. So our fees, as approved on the October 22nd board meeting, is 4% of all contributions that are made on behalf of plan participants. And in the 5th year of the program, basically our fees would end at that point in time. So there's a finite period of time when you actually pay the fees, but or administrative services carry on for the life of this program. So we potentially will be administering this plan for 40, 50 years for as long as participants continue to receive benefit payments for this program.
Thank you.
Mr. Tarantino, do you have a question?
Yes, President Pike. I think you've kind of touched on what I was going to ask, Mr. Yu, that because I noticed that the fees are different for each employee group. And so you answered that question, that it's based on the number of people participating in.
Correct. So it's based specifically on the contribution amount that so each employee gets a specific contribution amount as a percentage of their pay. So then there's a total dollar amount associated with each employee, and then our fees are 4%, and that's paid for by the district. So it doesn't impact any of the employees or their benefit amount under this program.
Okay. And then you mentioned that each year you're going to be doing an evaluation.
We're able to do an evaluation of the actual savings for the program, meaning if, for example, next year it's determined that you actually brought in your teachers at $63,000 rather than the assumed $66,000 amount, then we're able to recalculate the actual savings from the program. So that's the evaluation that we can do, assuming your board does approve this program this evening. We can continually monitor to see if those savings were actually realized or not.
And those reports are presented in open hearing like we are now?
It can be. It'd be at your district's discretion.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Dr. Janning.
Just a quick question with regarding to the numbers that you see here. The previous other plans that you've done, have you seen anything quite like this, or more or less, or?
So with regards to the actual offering that your district is offering to your employees, this is completely in line with what other districts have done. Again, more than 300 school districts throughout the state have offered PARS type programs, and I would say that the amount that you're actually offering your employees is really not too dissimilar from those other offerings. On average, so you have some at 85%, some at 60%. When you meld the two together, you're at 76%. So I know there's actually another employer in this county, another school district that offered a significantly higher benefit offering, but others are also, I would say, more in range with again the amount that your district is offering. The thing that's unique about this plan is that we haven't seen among other school districts is the concept of retiring folks at the mid-year. So that is unique, that you won't see many other school districts with that particular design. And so, again, that's designed basically to achieve immediate savings for the district.
Thank you.
Dr. Janning.
Thank you, Mr. Pike. So just for the community's sake and everyone else, the board's sake, just some background information. So this has not been an isolated decision or decision made in isolation. So it's not the only solution, and it's not a solution that was determined by the board or the people sitting on that side of the table, but it's been a constant, ongoing conversation around budget solutions going forward, knowing our current situation. So we are unique in that way. We Mr. Yu explained that if we are able to not replace or replace more than 20%, or not replace more than 20%, then we'll have even a more of a cost savings. With our reduction in enrollment, and that's one of the reasons why we're in the situation that we're in, this is an opportunity to right-size our district in a way that's humane and not a layoff proceeding. So, you know, this afternoon we did receive a letter from the county, San Diego County Office of Education, stating that they do not believe that the SERP is in the best interest of the district. And a major factor indicated in their letter is the concern about the inability to lay off staff if there are additional savings needed. However, we, the district, have a fundamental difference of funds through collaboration with our association. Layoffs are not a primary part of that process. SERP, we have made agreements where positions result in a greater reduction, but that collaboratively, right? We have this ongoing positive relationship. And as we've stated, continuously stated, we believe that the solutions lie in the collaboration with our partners. We also believe that being a good partner is walking together along this path to solutions. And we want to continue to extend our offer to SDCOE to walk this path with us and to do what is right for this community, for our community. We know that there's still much work to be done, but ultimately, we are confident that by working with our internal and our external partners, including SDCOE, that we can move forward in a positive manner and continue to serve the students and families of our district. For example, when we finally got the total number of employees certificated and classified, we put that list together of all of our teachers that are leaving in December or want to leave if the board approved the SERP. And we made a list by teacher, by content, what they teach, what their credential says, what they're teaching now, and as well as their classified employees, looking for opportunities to make some. For example, met with our labor partner, and we have a agreement that sometimes when master schedule, there's a couple of sections that are out there. It's not a feature on campus. So they're teaching 5 periods. They teach 6 periods. Teach number with the benefits. So what our partners have agreed to, because there are contractual obligations we have to meet. In first semester, depending upon your middle school or high school, you have so many weeks or those extra sections you can have. It's reduced. Our labor partners, they asked of understanding, giving us flexibility to give our current teachers that are left more of those extra periods so that we're not having to bring in substitutes. That is not our intent. It's for the parents in the community. And come to your saving. And for the most, be able to be options. We have teachers with special ed to fill. And so we'll hire or post those positions. But that doesn't happen without those part. The teacher who peers are in this, so we've done every day, all the lose it, and so we believe from we teach. Any more questions that you?
That's why I think 5 year, 22 months for month we start to put our budget priorities together. Opportunity across the board to right size the district.
Our work. I heard you started that work, and I know you've. I appreciate it. Mr. Celebrate.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Nobody else has any other?
I appreciate him when he come up and don't and don't we're trying to and this up against any state or great the district decided to take advantage of this, and not only for themselves, but helping the district right itself. And I understand, being in the classroom for 16 years, we do our counselors. We do appreciate all those workers that clean up our schools. We do appreciate that. They're just numbers. They're not just heads. This is not an easy. Oh, definitely. Thank you for saying that. But yes, I definitely we doing why we're doing what we're. There's misstatements and misconceptions out there. All this, everything has been for the kids. You might not believe that, but so I want to thank those teachers for taking.
We will create a team of experts on that topic and come to the district and work through that process and issue a report. We also spend about 10% of our time in the unfortunate area of fraud, misappropriation of public funds, and other illegal fiscal activities. We are the agent for the 58 county superintendents when an allegation of fraud reaches them, that they can turn to somebody to investigate that. We are not their only source. We are not a school district source to do that unless it's the county superintendent making that request. The value of coming to us, number one, is you're going to get school district experts, school district business experts specifically, not just an accounting background. Somebody used the word forensic accounting, whatever that means, earlier, but it is that type of work. It is fraud work. More than half our staff are certified fraud examiners, which I think is what's tied to the concept of forensic accounting. Another 10% of our work is in professional development. We know from experience that the most effective way to avoid fiscal distress, fiscal problems, is through a solid leadership and through solid business office team. And so we partner with a whole bunch of agencies out there, private and public, to support a variety of professional development programs for our business and our leaders in school districts. Let me switch gears and talk about Assembly Bill 1200. Been around for almost 30 years, passed in 1991, authored by Delane Easton, was Ms. Easton's landmark legislation that strengthened fiscal oversight and fiscal reporting for California school districts. It did that primarily by strengthening the role of the county information auditor to control the insight, instantly change that. We wouldn't describe state, but the whole 100 though the district's finances and you right else, just you. Some of the hype any want
work into it to give you this having this area calculation. There have been issues for years, and so that's based on rates and of coming in very pretty sly on that information for years. No issue. 2 year budget.
Okay, I'm sorry. Continue.
and adoption, although it goes in. Also, the next section, monitoring and updates, 9 questions, 7 no's. So a very critical other where the county offices actually identify deficiencies in their oversight letters, that those have not been addressed, and so they're very problematic. And we all run and so another bunch to rely on for, but that day is coming to an end for this district. If you get ed code requirements and everything else, problem. That issues aren't happening, things, so there are areas in cash management have to be a strong area on this. Very interesting understand and your information spend to have to contribute to others spend more than the having not make cuts to those areas and there are no answers. When it comes to deficit spending is really right, a big part of it. So we have brought a budget solution to the board in October. It's not sufficient, nor have all those amounts been cut. 6 amounts. They're in backup and data management, 6 questions, all of those position control system, not accounting for all positions and costs in the budget. So because that is the biggest of anybody, if there is not a sense of accuracy of that system, it's of your. So much more needs to be done. There's a lot of information on and then adjustments to staff based on that. In addition, it really should all have the same issues. Not talking about management, actually doing the work, talking about time. Ed knows definitely improvement that needs to be made in not all district to have a handle on what costs are, so that you can make better students, and that is due just in all of these 20 risk factors. But again, point that you're at this point a lot to be done so that you can make sure that that risk level decreases. Would you rather? Would you want to have the board members ask questions at this time?
Want to ask some questions?
And then
like an example of cap.
I said budget. Talked about public. It's the budget. So what I got was on your superintendent about public input about.
And that back out on an annual basis. It's not a 3-year plan. Annual update on where you're at, and so where we see the weak is in the alignment budget in your. I appreciate speaking. Your LCAP. You don't. I'll give you the example in your. Not going to communities. So say they're not aligned.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I want comprehensive. What point do you think? I know that has given in, and when the denial of the budget came back, that's seen since we have the appropriation that you have.
So our review is based on a point in time, based on how you got here,
okay,
not based on what's happened from the middle of October on.
Okay. And
at
so
that point, some things had started to be put in place, but that wouldn't be enough to get you a yes to a lot of these because of where you had been and what we were still seeing at budget revision. Because there's going to take a while to correct what has happened.
Yes, it will.
And one person can't do it all, right? As far as the CFO. So I mean, it's so a lot. I mean, they're
questioning.
Yes.
Understand. So I agree. I appreciate whether
On the if they wanted an honest self to see if they scored higher, right? Because ours is an independent look, so it's much easier for someone to.
Like normally in the you have management on but have that in to make sure.
It was reviewed for factual information if there were inaccuracies, and we did take some of those into account. The district had 5 days to do that. We took.
Tell me why the score ultimately changed.
Why it got worse than what it was originally, because based on some of the information and comments that we received as we reviewed it, we changed it during the draft time, because as we were looking at some areas and analyzing comments, we realized that really some of the yeses should have been no. So the score as it ended was worse by about 2 points, and should have been from the beginning.
What areas
What areas were corrected? Corrected.
Well, I mean,
fund balance, deficit spending. The truth, because as was happening, as the information was coming, and more, like for instance, the auditor, when we were here, the auditor had done work estimates, just like we updated information bargaining that something was brought last week, so we tried to update some of the information we had in there.
So that was after.
We are October, but we will to validate 100%. There's change, yes. Some change from each no to yes. So
you look at the policies, or just policies related to the weigh a lot on the LCAP.
I don't know that we did weigh a lot on the LCAP. I don't know why you.
Well, I mean, pointing to
your district a lot of cap, but our more about budgets and specifics of budgets.
So not policies related to that.
We did look at your policies, but these weren't policy questions about LCAP.
And your report doesn't really have any information on what would be a recommendation regarding policies that strengthened or processes related to our LCAP process. Did sort of highlight or touch on that when you spoke, Mr. Pine?
So overall, in the leadership and stability section, which is a high-risk area, there's a question that says, does the governing board adopt and revise policies and administrative regulations annually? And we answered that, yes, you do. There was evidence that you go through that process annually. Specific to LCAP, again, is it's not our call whether your LCAP is sufficient or not. That's your call and the county superintendent's call, actually very limited even with the county superintendent. What we were looking at is alignment. Is there evidence of a collaborative process on the budget with respect to the alignment? The LCAP is, if I recall, here is not 100% reflective of all budget lines. Is that true? Yes. Making sure I have the right district. And so you have a lot of other collaboration to accomplish with the budget that's outside the LCAP as well, right? Title I may be included in part in the LCAP, may not. If it supports one of your goals and actions, it could be, but you have other Title I components. You have other unrestricted and discretionary components that aren't simply supplemental and concentration. And in fairness, every district across the state does a little different. Some, their LCAP is aligned 100% to their budget. So all dollars received and spent are addressed in the LCAP. Other districts only address supplemental and concentration funds. Other districts, believe it or not, only address the increase in funds since 1213 when the LCAPs were required. So it's a mixed bag across the state, and the State Board of Ed is not, at this point, chosen to mandate one of those or the others. That's 100% your choice as a governance team.
Thank you. Dr. Janning?
Yes. Dr. Salkeld, can you address some of the areas that they've highlighted that we have begun to work on, that we know are issues and acknowledge, like position control and budget development and LCFF calculations and things like that?
Certainly. So The items that were mentioned, we've certainly been very proactive in putting the systems in place. Certainly, in some cases, it will take some time, but I would like to, I'd like to report, like position control as an example. That is a result of us being on multiple systems. So that is something we're already addressing from an IT standpoint, looking to create some integrations. It is manual right now, so as part of our budget work for 18-19. But most importantly for 1920.
Sounds like they're like right there.
I was going to say right above you. We've been bringing folks, different teams together, transportation, just different across the district. Transportation special ed is an example. We've been working very closely with them to really align positions that are currently in the payroll to have assurance that they're in the budget. So that way that becomes our foundational work, not only again for 18-19 as we've been doing the interims. I even shared this at the last board meeting that's still an area that as we look at our budget that we're going to continue to refine. But going into 1920, it's going to be essential. So it's going to be a manual process until we get an integrated system. But most importantly is we're looking at those systems. Things with monthly reporting, kind of going to that monthly or budget monitoring, that's important. We've also had site visits, been meeting with principals, meeting again with department managers and creating a system of kind of checks and balances, as I've been saying, to make sure that the reports and the dollars are within the allotted budgets. So again, it goes back to a lot of systems, but providing that background and that expertise so that way as we move forward, then that too ties the transparency piece of it. And as we're mentioning kind of LCAP work and different elements too, that we can improve that and communicate that to the community. Again, cash management, soon after I came on board too, is implementing a cash management cash flow schedule. Been looking at all those elements there. It's been included in our first interim report, as well as when we brought the revised budget in October, along with interfund borrowing. I can touch upon all of these items. We have been very proactive. And again, it's not just one area in finance. Certainly we're leading that work, but it is a collaboration. Finance touches upon so many different aspects of our district's operations. So it is a team effort, certainly with cabinet and with all of our schools and our principals to get the work that's going to be necessary over a course of a year and a multi-year plan to get us to get to the district in a good financial position.
Thank you.
So with that said, we do realize we appreciate the time you spent here and the report. And now that we've got the final report, we can dig deeper into each of the items to ensure that we're addressing each of them as we go forward. We think we're addressing some of them right now. We haven't addressed all of them. And so our intent, our goal, our deliberate action will be on addressing those areas that you've, identified as deficient or no's, all the no's. So we understand that. We know it's serious. We have been addressing them, and we will continue to address them. And we really appreciate the time that you put into the report.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Michael's going to have some concluding remarks. I just wanted to also say the report will be available on our website tomorrow morning at ficmat.org for those who were asking. So we just needed to have the board meeting.
Right. Thank you. We were going to make that announcement, and we're also making some copies right now that we got this afternoon for the final report for the public to have, and it will be posted.
Okay. Just couple comments here, Mr.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you for all this information. It's there's a lot of information here, and we definitely know, and I definitely appreciate the seriousness of all this, and there's a lot going on here that that, as you heard, that Dr. Selka and Dr. Janney and the teams have already started to address and work on, and I know with the collaboration that we have with everybody. In the units and at the schools and here at the district that we will, we're going to get it corrected in time. So thank you for that information.
Ms. Hall.
I just would like to know, I know that you were at the beginning. This, it seems to me that, we need to, we have a seal that has to be fixed in what system again, because the information as being out was running for long, but if you would on that for us.
A couple of those. Maybe is an early warning system. Design some principles of an early warning system, and in your particular case, the early warning system failed. It's failed miserably, both in your internal process, in your governance process, and then to an extent in the oversight process. The county office is in a similar role that you write. Report a great teaching moment that we get. So left there are samples there of the standard criteria that I referred to. There are some criteria. So this ever criteria answered in one. You stop, move on to the next agenda item. So lever and complete sentence went off on them. And then I had to back up and say, stop, we've got a district on fire. Let's get focused on putting the fire out. We'll move forward with the rest of it and figure this out. So to your point, let me touch on it. And if I don't answer completely some examples of that, stop me. In our almost 30 years of being in existence as an agency, our experience tells us that situations like yours are the manifestation of many years of weak governance and leadership. Conditions such as this do not occur overnight. They didn't all happen last year. They didn't all happen the year before. They probably haven't all happened since each of you took office. They go back in time. In the districts that ultimately get taken over by the state, I think we can say with absolute integrity and accuracy, if we were to do an autopsy and go all the way back, some of those things are a decade old, 2 decades old. They are culture, their philosophy that somehow, despite the best efforts of change, managed to continue in the organization. As is always the case, and you know this, leadership matters. Every recovery plan starts with acknowledging you have a problem. It doesn't matter what the problem, stop and think, whether it's personal relationship, alcohol, drugs, step with the same admitting you have a problem. You have, what I hear tonight is a different dialogue than what I heard when I sat in the back was and observed a board meeting and when I've watched and had reports back to me. And so I applaud you for that progress. Tonight, if you do anything else, you leave here with a sense of absolute urgency of the magnitude of the problem that you're dealing with. There are not a lot of things I can say with absolute certainty, but one is that among the leaders and school officials in this room, the only one I personally know that has their hands clean is your new Chief Financial Officer. For obvious reasons. She's come in after the fact, right? She's in a unique position. You need to recognize that. You need to embrace her as likely your number one resource that will turn this district around. Who and how quickly you hold responsible is your role as a governance team. But there is some responsibility beyond you to be shared. No doubt. Michelle briefly spoke in the context of systems, your perspective that, page 9 refers to some 302 negative budget entries. Use of contra accounts. There's a reason we ask a question about the use of contra accounts. So I'm going to be really simple here and give you an example of this. You have 4 salary lines. So my math works. Let's have 5 salary lines. Sorry. The first 4 are assigned to 4 schools. High school 1, 2, 3, and 4. 100,000, 100,000, 100,000, 100,000. The program manager relates that. Probably your principal is monitoring that, living by that budget of 100,000 of salaries, and doing what they need to do within those resources. But if you take a deep look, you actually have 5 lines. A 5th line at some district level account for a negative 100,000. So instead of having a salary budget of 400,000, you really have an overall budget of 300,000, which then fits nicely into we're all balanced. Those don't show up by accident. Those are very intentional entries. 302 of them is what we discussed. And somebody in your county office, if it hasn't already been discussed with you, don't use contra account by excluding the question doesn't apply to certain contra accounts because they are Jenny's. So that would be an example. Michelle brought it up. You're not the same system. You're county in the same system. Any in the state of California. If you want me to be candid, although I haven't done my homework on that, you're on a system that should be replaced tomorrow. With on the county system and their ability to dive deep, I'll get it out sooner or later, dive deep into that level of detail. They see 300,000, and it looks like the data is okay. Especially, let me offer one more example. Trustee Hall, for 4 months last fiscal year, you pay county office, they issue yours. They then sent you a data file that uploads it to your system. Or you do it. Okay. So actual budget during those 4 months looked really good. Red, when payroll is 0,